saying in Tennessee, I know it's in Texas, probably in Tennessee, that says, fool me once, shame on you. If fool me, we can't get fooled again.
No, that is George W. Bush. That's over 2 decades ago. I believe that was in 2000. That's George W. Bush butchering a simple aphorism that goes, fool me once, shame on you. Fool me twice, shame on me. But I don't want to be too hard on George W. Bush because most of us went to a public school. Most of us are C students. Some of y'all are D students, especially the one that's going to talk crap in my comment section. But let's play it again because I can never get enough of this. Let's play it one more time.
There's an old saying in Tennessee, I know it's in Texas, probably in Tennessee, that says, fool me once, shame on.
All right, let's stop it right here. It's within that moment right there, you realize that you forgot the second part. And I can tell the gears in his brains are turning at rapid speed because he's now trying to figure out how he's going to complete that sentence. All right, let's keep going.
Shame on you. If fool me, we can't get fooled again.
At least he did a good improvise. Well, I did a video a couple weeks ago, and in the video, I kind of pointed out that Donald Trump Presidency Part 2 is a bad remix version of Donald Trump Presidency Part 1. And I kind of pointed out to the trade deal that Donald Trump did in his first term and the pain that that trade deal caused. And I kind of pointed out that there's no economists alive that have anything positive to say about these trade deals. Well, let's look at what happened today because of Donald Trump on again, off again, on again, off again trade. And I tell you one thing about this on again, off again trade. Look, world leaders are laughing at Donald Trump because a leader leads with a steady hand. This stuff where you're on and back, it shows weakness. All right, let's look at what happened in the market today.
The S&P down more than 150 points on the day, or roughly about 2.7%. The Dow Jones Industrial Average down almost 900 points, or 2% on the day. The NASDAQ Composite is going to close lower by 700 points, or about 4%. Similar move lower on the NASDAQ 100. And the Russell 2000 also being dragged down on the day, down 56 points, or 2.7%.
All right, quick check on the S&P 500. You had 341 names to the downside, guys, 162 to the upside, Scarlett.
And given that the S&P closed down about 2.7%, you would think that all 11 sectors are in the red. That's not the case. Utilities gaining more than 1%. Energy also holding up by about 1% as well. Of course, they're among the two smallest sectors in the S&P.
Now, let me say this. If you have a stock portfolio, you basically lost 15 to 20% of your balance today, this week, just this week. And a lot of people will say, well, Big O, it's not about trade, it's about the drugs that's coming across the border. Well, if you believe that, I got a bridge to sell you. And let's say for example you're right. Let's give that to you. Why would Donald Trump play games with your 401k, play games with your savings, play games with your IRA? Why would he do that? Because you might not recover that money. Now, and a lot of folks says, look, if this is really about drugs coming across the border, there's many other ways to do that. You don't have to play games with the market. Now, let me play this one video right here because in my first video, I kind of pointed out how Donald Trump went out and he criticized the past trade agreement that the presidency made. And he went out and he signed his own trade agreement. I'm going to play both videos. Now, let's start with this one right here.
I am right now renegotiating trade deals that are so horrendous and so one-sided and so embarrassing for our country you're probably reading the papers, renegotiating NAFTA. We're renegotiating various other deals with foreign countries.
Look at that. I love when he changed his voice. If you notice, his voice kind of went up a little bit. It's like he remembered he have to be a president. All right, let's keep going.
That are so embarrassing and so horrendous that you would say, why on earth would anybody have signed a deal like that?
All right, let's stop it right there. Why would anybody have signed a deal like that? Now, Donald Trump went out and he did this. Let's watch this one video.
After NAFTA's adoption more than 25 years ago, the United States lost nearly 1/4 of all of its manufacturing jobs, including more than 1 in 5 vehicle manufacturing jobs. Think of that. 1 in 5 jobs lost so needlessly. Thousands of factories were shuttered. Millions of manufacturing jobs were destroyed. And entire communities were devastated, from Ohio to Pennsylvania, Michigan to Maine, and California to North Carolina, devastated. 2 decades of politicians ran for office vowing to replace the NAFTA, and this was a catastrophe, the NAFTA catastrophe. Yet once elected, they never even tried. They never even gave it a shot. They sold out. But I'm not like those other politicians, I guess in many ways. I keep my promises, and I'm fighting for the American worker.
Look at Mike Pence in the back. He's like he's really forcing back the laugh. You know he's a ridiculous president. All right, let's keep going.
And we're all fighting for the American worker. Everybody here is fighting for the American worker. This agreement is a tremendous breakthrough for American agriculture. Canada will finally provide greater access for American dairy. Canada's opening up. It will grow annual exports to our neighbors by an estimated $315 million. Poultry exports to Canada are expected to rise by at least 50%, and egg export could increase by 500%. Where is the Canadian folks? Where are they? You guys did a good job on us before this deal, I'll tell you. Canada was very tough, but they're good. They're our friends, so we appreciate it. Very importantly, Canada will finally give fair treatment to American-grown wheat. The USMCA is also a massive win for American manufacturers and auto workers. Under NAFTA, companies were given huge incentives to produce cars in foreign countries and ship them to America tax-free. No tax, no nothing. We lost our jobs, we closed our factories, and other countries built our cars. But we've changed that, and we're now setting records. The USMCA closes these terrible loopholes and includes strong provisions to ensure that new cars are fashioned by American hands. That's a fancy word of saying built.
All right, let's stop it right there. Now, that was after you guys had to bail the farmers out and pay for your food twice. Then he finally signed a trade agreement, and you hear how highly he talk about that trade agreement. And now, what, less than 4 years later, 5 years later, we're doing that again? We're damaging the economy? If you listen to all the economists, we're on the edge of a recession, just judging by the GDP, the stock market, and the last job number that just came out. Now, let me react to this one video, because this is President Biden's final economic number speech before he left office. Let's play this video right here.
This morning's jobs report, more than 250,000 jobs in December. In 4 years, the economy created 16.6 million new jobs, the most in any single presidential term. We've created jobs every single month I was in office.
No, let me stop it right here, because I'm going to do some critique as far as everything Biden is saying as well. Because, yeah, there was a lot of jobs created, but most of those jobs were jobs that was recovered after the COVID, the pandemic. All right, let's keep going.
During my presidency, we saw the lowest average of unemployment rate of any administration in the last 50 years. And battling through the worldwide effects of the pandemic, Putin's war in Ukraine, and supply chain disruption, inflation rate is down to nearly 2%. These are simple, well-established economic benchmarks that measure the strength of any economy, the success or failure of any president's 4 years in office. I believe the economy I'm leaving is the best in the world and stronger than ever for all Americans. So,
No, let's stop it right here. All the number you cited is correct. The inflation number was steady. I disagree. It's the best in the world. It's the best in the free world. I mean, the best. I mean, I'm talking Europe and Russia and Germany and all these countries. We had the lowest inflation. That's a fact. But what I will say, though, is oil price, gas price was high, and food price, grocery price was high, and people was not feeling. The market was doing good. The Wall Street was doing good, but the common folks was having a difficult time. All right, let's keep going.
I think that's what we have. We'll see what the next president does. This morning's jobs report, more than two.
All right, let's take a look at where we actually at right now. I came across this one video. This is actually that one group, the Midas Touch, and I want to play what he have to say about what happened today. It's a very good podcast, and you can go check them out. I believe they're basically the #1 podcast in the country right now.
It's time for me to put on my Wall Street hat again and take a look at the crashing American economy. I'm not proud to say it's happening. I don't want it to happen, but when you have somebody in office who's a madman who just refers to a oncoming recession caused by his own failed policies as a period of transition, and I don't like to make predictions. Well, I'll make a prediction here on the Midas Touch Network. The markets are roiling because of Donald Trump's incoherent, untethered to reality economic policy led purportedly by people in his cabinet that used to work on Wall Street. I don't know what happened to them. But I will tell you that the brokers and traders around the world are reacting negatively, and the American economy may be sliding into recession. Not my words, those of independent economists at major banks. I'm Michael Popak. You're here on the Midas Touch Network and Legal AF. I'm going to put on my hat for working for years on Wall Street. Let me tell you what I am observing. First of all, let's start it off with Donald Trump's comment during a Fox interview with a friendly softball interviewer of Maria Bartiromo, the same person who threw a softball to him along the lines of, well, we know you inherited a mess in the economics from Joe Biden. What is she talking about? Was she on Fox News? Did she watch the Biden administration? Donald Trump inherited a roaring economy. He inherited job creation, job growth, GDP growth. Right? We had robust free trade. We had tariffs where it was important. We had free trade where it mattered. We had increased investment in our infrastructure, in our future, in our technology, in our oil and gas production. We had stock market booming. We had prices heading in the right direction at the right time. After he inherited, let's remember, every time a Democrat gets in, they have to inherit an economy that's on life support or worse. Barack Obama takes over when the economy fell off the cliff. We had to do the auto and bank bailout all at the same time. People forget that. And then he turned that economy around and created tens of millions of jobs. Joe Biden takes over from Donald Trump, and the economy is flatlined. Boop, that's flatline. He had to pump $3 trillion of stimulus just to defibrillate the American economy and get it back awake after COVID and Donald Trump's failed policies.
And let me stop it right here, because he just made a great point. Because when people run around and say, but Joe Biden caused the inflation, no. All these, if you want to put a pinpoint on where the inflation comes from, it's all that trillions of dollars that was pumped into the market. So it was part Joe Biden and a big part Donald Trump, because he had his own stimulus package. That's a fact. No, let's keep going.
This is the person we gave the keys to the economy back to. And Donald Trump now in 50 days decides to do, what would have been interesting in some sort of weekend retreat by Heritage Foundation or a tabletop exercise in the woods. What will happen if we pull out the U.S. from the U.S. economy, stop domestic aid, stop foreign aid, all of those having American jobs behind them, all of those having American companies behind them? Let's get rid of billions of dollars of U.S. investment in the economy all at the same time. We start and lose a tariff war with our three major trading partners in Canada, Mexico, and China. Let's do all that at the same time. Let's get rid of the Internal Revenue Service because we don't need to collect taxes. Let's start sharpening our knives and go after Social Security, Medicare, and Medicaid. Let's take consumer confidence and shrink it to its lowest levels in over a decade. Yeah? And then when we see that maybe all of that at the exact same time, doing everything everywhere all at once, may not have been the right message to send to brokers and traders and American consumers who are still struggling. What do you do? Oh, you trot out your Treasury Secretary who used to work for George Soros, by the way, and you trot out your Commerce Secretary who used to and probably still has a major a Wall Street company to say, there may be a recession. No, there won't be a recession on my watch. And then Donald Trump's supposed to be the tiebreaker. Donald Trump is supposed to be the tiebreaker. He's told everybody he's in charge. The buck stops with him. Not that we have any bucks with him, but the buck stops with him, right? Executive orders after executive order, putting every agency in the executive branch under his greasy little thumb. It's him. He's in charge. All right. Okay, Chief, what do you got to say for being in charge? Will there be a recession, says Maria Bartiromo. Here's what the President of the United States says, apparently to break the tie between his Commerce Secretary and his Treasury Secretary to make the markets feel better. Go.
Are you expecting a recession this year?
I hate to predict things like that. There is a period of transition because what we're doing is very big. We're bringing wealth back to America. That's a big thing. And there are always periods of, it takes a little time. It takes a little time. But I think it should be great for us. I mean, I think it should be great. It's going to be great ultimately for the farmer. Don't forget,
And are the markets feeling?
There was a critical moment. I kind of want to stop it when she initially asked him the question, and people don't pick up on this, but there was a small split second right there when he made a. You can tell that he's thinking about it, and he's uncertain what's gonna happen, and he don't want to say yes or no. There is or is not gonna be a recession. Because you don't want to be held to, you don't know, you don't want to be held to his words. So that's when he went off in that verbose response with a lot of words, meaning absolutely zero. All right, let's keep going.
Any better with his, I don't like to predict, Maria, but there's going to be a period of transition. What's the period of transition? Are we transitioning from a period where we had money, we had dignity, we were able to take care of our loved ones, our elderly parents, our children, college, food, rent, the electric bill? Is that it? And now we're transitioning into a period where we don't have those things?
Well, let's stop it right here because I think you all get the point. And I just want to finish up with this one video right here. I believe it's an AI video. It's probably a little bit under a minute, over a minute, actually, a minute and a half. But let me
Wall Street suffered a massive sell-off on Monday, with the Dow Jones Industrial Average dropping nearly 900 points as fears of an economic recession rattled investors. The market chaos began early, with all three major U.S. indexes opening sharply in the red and struggling throughout the day. Despite a brief midday rally, stocks closed with steep losses. The Dow finished down 890 points, 2.08%, while the S&P 500 plunged 2.7% and the Nasdaq Composite suffered its worst single-day drop since September 2022, falling 4%. This sharp decline marked the worst trading day of the year for both the Dow and the S&P 500. tech stocks bore the brunt of the sell-off, dragging the Nasdaq further into correction territory. The so-called Magnificent Seven tech giants, Alphabet, Amazon, Apple, Meta, Microsoft, Nvidia, and Tesla, were all in the red. Investors were particularly shaken by Donald Trump's latest remarks, in which he refused to rule out a recession. Speaking on Fox News Sunday Morning Futures, Trump described the current economic phase as a period of transition, further fueling uncertainty in an already fragile market. Market analysts point to concerns over Trump's tariff policies and broader economic instability as key reasons behind Monday's turmoil. The S&P 500, which had enjoyed a steady climb since the November election, has now erased most of its gains for the year.
All right, let's stop it right there. We don't really need to go no further. And the folks that don't get it is the deep MAGA folks. They're not gonna get it. These are the guys that are willing to go down with the ship because they just believe in Donald Trump so much. But you can. I'm not talking about the conservative because those are my friends. But the MAGA, I don't believe they're the one that's gonna show up in my comment section talking crazy. But we just gonna leave it right here. All right, we out. HRTV. Like, leave a comment, subscribe.